My name is Raina Savage and I'm the manager of the new Goulburn Performing Arts Centre. My real passion, I guess, and my real skills that I see is in actually creating events, kind of helping people to really sort of formulate what the vision is and then sort of bringing all those different kind of components together, just finding the right pieces of the puzzle to kind of bring together to create something new and exciting and a bit unexpected. I think it's a really exciting thing for Goulburn. I think there's obviously been a really strong history of the performing arts in this region. There's a lot of people who've been doing things for a very long time, some very established theatre and performing arts groups and musicians and a whole range of different activities that people are involved in. And I think what's so great about this is that it really adds to that, adds an extra dimension and new opportunities to people who are interested in the performing arts, but also to people who haven't had that exposure to them at all before. So I'm really excited about that. My vision for the Goulburn Performing Arts Centre is growing our creative communities, and I think that really kind of encapsulates what we're about and what the role of GPAC is in the community. So we've got a big stage, we've got a fly tower, we've got lots of amazing technical equipment. We're offering employment to lots of people, also for young people, for the kids. We're working with the schools so that the VET students will be able to actually come and do their work experience with us. And just, children from, preschool right through who'll actually be able to come perform on stage, but also just to see amazing performances. And we know that a lot of those kids may never have been to the theatre before. And I guess the other thing too is just adding on from that is for the whole community. We'll be able to put on, really big, really amazing shows. So our local audience be able to experience all of those amazing things that people in bigger regional towns and cities get to experience without having to travel. So I see that we're really adding to the performing arts here, bringing something new to the table.
I have worked as a theatre director for 15-20 years, and it's kind of an act of communion. It's people being present together and each feeling their own humanity and knowing that we're in it together. When you rehearse a play, you put it on stage, you know the lines and you know the steps and the cues are the same, but every time it's for the first time because it's live, and that is really what makes performance is this fact that it's a live exchange. It's not a film, it's not pre-recorded. And in that live exchange, I think every time it's surprising because every time it's different. Because the audience is different, the performers are different, whatever happened that day can infuse, what happens in the night. I think there's scope for a wide range of experiences there. We've got, the main stage, which is really a traditional theatre with a proscenium arch, and then there's the meeting place and the cafe area and the terraces, which are non-traditional spaces where a wide variety of activities can happen. So poetry slams, crafternoons, gigs, music gigs, dance performances, yarning circles, workshops of all kind of shapes and varieties, music events, play readings, through to, we're going to have all this professional companies touring through with plays, with dance, with classical music, with popular music. There'll be all the local performing arts groups putting on musicals, staging plays, high school students doing concerts and dance, music. It's a wide variety.
I was born and raised in Goulburn, so I have that immediate link into Goulburn. But I came back to be the first director of the Goulburn Regional Art Gallery in 1983, and during that time I then also became involved in the performing arts The performing arts was something that I always wanted to do way back when I was a child, because I thought I could sing beautifully, until I was told by the choir master at school that there was an awful noise coming from where I sang, and that I shut up. So when I came back to Goulburn and found the Lynda Theatre existed here, and the importance of it, just the performing arts being in Goulburn, is that you really have the opportunity to grow. So then I did have that strong link in with the theatre when I was, working at the gallery. But then when I retired, I wanted to become much more involved with the Lynda Theatre as a performing arts theatre, and did. But one of the things that happened was that through my work, I became very interested in writing. And not many people really knew the story of Miles Franklin and her involvement with Goulburn. And so I then jumped in the deep end and wrote a play about that. And I had no idea that I could really write a play, and I did. And so I think that's really important, that it does open up all sorts of things that you don't know that you can do. But that's one of the things, that having those things in your town, it means that people who are living in the town can aspire to do them. They can see that people do that. That's been really important for me, and for my son it was an opportunity for him to really engage in a whole range of theatre, because it wasn't just the straight stage plays at the Leader. He was doing this sort of really way out stuff with an organisation called Mustard Seed Project. Look, anything that happens, we can only hope that it brings more awareness. It's certainly going to offer all sorts of opportunities. And the other thing that I think is really wonderful, that Performing Arts Centre is being built in an old building. It's actually utilising a really significant old building, which actually has a link to the arts in Goulburn, because it was built by William Wilkie, who is the uncle of Guy Warren, who is a really important Australian artist who was born in Goulburn. And so I think that's a lovely link. But the other thing about the performing arts is I've found it really important as a way of telling our stories, and people in Goulburn, I find, really do like to hear the Goulburn stories, and the theatre can do it in really interesting ways. The history of the performing arts in Goulburn is phenomenal, because they were putting on their own plays and everything back in the 1840s. And then of course there's the Indigenous presence as well, that was doing a lot of performing through the importance of the ceremonial sites all around Goulburn. So the Performing Arts Centre becomes part of that meeting place where people come together and tell stories.
My name's Jock McLean. I'm a retired school teacher. When I came to Australia, I was contracted to teach at Goulburn High School, and they hadn't much of a tradition of doing plays, and I volunteered in my second year to do a production of Romeo and Juliet, and from then on it was just drama all the way. That's the story. I've been teaching drama for 20 odd years. I've been involved in theatre for I think I had my first part when I was 16 at high school, and I'm 76 now, so 60 years in theatre, and love it. I got the bug at high school and did a couple of small parts in a high school play. In my first teaching role, I realised that out in front of the class, you're an actor, or you've got to be a good actor if you want to hold the kids' attention. So I've been really involved in being an actor, if you like, all my life. The live performing arts are very much people now know what they're going to see is a worthwhile piece of entertainment, and also maybe something that will make them think. The number of people I've met in the last 8 years who are involved in the arts in some way or the other is huge in Goulburn. It really is it's an arts hub. I think maybe GPAC is going to be the catalyst that brings us all together. We must make sure that people come to it, and we must invite groups to show their craft on the walls, or have art exhibitions, or poetry readings, or music, lots of music of course, and plays, and get kids involved as well. The three things I think are important for theatre or drama, for young people and for people, is one, it gives you a sense of your own self-worth. You accomplish something. It gives you a sense of working with other people. I think that's very important. And I think the third important thing is that it brings people together on a project. So it spreads friendship all around the town or the village. And it brings a lot of satisfaction to a lot of people. There's nothing better than to get a bit of applause at the end of a run.
Hi, well, my name is Chrisjohn Hancock. I'm the Artistic Director of the Lynda Theatre. I've been Artistic Director since 1992, but I joined the theatre in 1972 as a teenager, and when I started performing and helping build sets and perform in pantomimes and plays. The Lynda Theatre's 130 years old, and it's the longest running theatre company in Australia. I've moved to Goulburn when I was a young teenager, and my father got me involved in the Gilbert and Sullivan production, and around that time my father brought me to the Lynda Theatre, and in 1982 I got drawn back to Goulburn after spending 2 years working in Scotland, and I became very involved in the Lynda Theatre, and during that time I directed a play written by Paul Paviour called Caroline, about Caroline Chisholm's involvement in Goulburn. And I remember John and Mary Spicer coming and seeing the play and taking me out into the foyer and complimenting me on the production, and I felt really chuffed as a young director. And then I worked for the Mustard Seed Project, which was an extraordinary performing arts company in Goulburn that lasted 10 years. And then I went away again, and when I came back, John asked me if I was interested in directing, and I said yes, and that's when it all started, 1992. So the theatre really has kick-started a lot of people's professional careers, and we've got lots of people. Certainly I know from my time that there's been many, many young people who have begun sort of coming to the Lynda as a young person and developing confidence, and not just theatre skills, but confidence and self-esteem and a whole lot of personal development skills, and then moved into professional careers in the arts. And I think this place has really been a really lovely home for young people as they've grown and discovered the world and discovered mateship and developed some skills, whether it's in theatre or not. For me, that's really important, the equality and the teamwork that's created. Everyone has to work together as a team, and everyone has to support each other. And I love the fact that there are 5 and 6 year olds in a show and 70 and 80 year olds. And to me, that's what the arts are, the heart and soul of a community. They really they're like an invisible net that sort of somehow joins the community together and unites a community. We're all within the community, and that really highlighted how special Goulburn is, and how a community isn't always aware of the artists and the musicians, but somehow some subculture of artists has some magical hold or magical energy that really does influence how a community behaves and appears to the rest of the world. It really helps people identify their sense of space and their sense of place. And I think that that's a really valuable asset for Goulburn.
David Cole, probably more well known as a journalist, because I was a journalist here for about 20 years. But on the side I used to write plays. I still do actually, and I've written 5 plays actually, and 3 of them have been produced at the Lynda. Well, I first got involved with the Lynda Theatre anyway because the late John Spicer, who basically was responsible for re-establishing the Lynda in the 1970s, and John was working on a play about Marion Brownlow, and he was aware that I'd written a film script about it, and as a result I'd done a lot of research. John reached out to me because he wanted someone who knew more about the case, and so I thought I was just coming on as a bit of a research assistant, but then I found John involved me more in the writing of it, and basically said, Act 2's yours. And through working with Johnny, he taught me how to write. Particularly I remember he told me that character is everything in theatre. Before you even write anything, you've really got to visualise your characters, and then they'll come alive anyway on the page. So I think I owe that to John. I owe a lot to John actually, because basically he taught me how to start writing plays anyway. So as a result I got to know Chrisjohn and everyone at the Lynda, some great people there. And I know he then passed that baton on to Chrisjohn, and Chrisjohn then ran the theatre for, well, he's still, about 30 years? So he was a real mentor, and then Chrisjohn was a real mentor too. In my mind, I think the leader is very professional. It's right up there. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's been international, and some of the actors there are as good as you'll see anywhere. Well, to me, especially in an age of Netflix and all the rest of it, performing arts are, I think there'll always be performing arts, because it's really special to have that live story unfolding with you, in front of you, with actors, and you know that it's going to be different every night. It's got a certain magic to it. The theatre's full of magic, I think.
Hello everyone, Jacqui Smith, CEO of the Hume Conservatorium here in Goulburn. I'm now just on 6 months in Goulburn and loving it, and very much looking forward to being quite a big part of it in the upcoming few years. My very first memory and the reason I got into arts management was I was about 10, living in Bathurst at the time, and the Renaissance plays performed at my school. I'm a recorder player, and there were people playing all sorts of whistles and pipes and things I'd never seen before, including hurdy-gurdies and rackets and rebecs, which is a 3-string violin, and I went, that's quite fun. I'm either going to play with them or I'm going to manage them one day. Music is one of those things that you either love by playing or listening or being a part of. It doesn't matter what, but it makes people better humans. I always thought when I was teaching people in Sydney and here that whether or not you go on to be musicians of professional nature or of a amateur singing in a choir just because you love it, whatever you do with music makes you a better person. You know what? The Mighty Playwrights, it was the best thing I think I've saw last year. They were professional, it was fun, it was engaging. That 7 plays, wow. That moved us, and that's why we're here, just to see, it was all level stages of abilities and great, but professionally done. The kids were mentored beautifully, the plays were interesting, and it was really good. So I think there's more of that in town. What I love about the new Performing Arts Centre is that we've always had a con for 36 years this year. We've got performance spaces, but they're tiny. My biggest space is 150 seats. But if you're a teenager and you're grade 8 cello and you want to actually perform to a proper audience, or you're a music theatre star or the choir, having 400 seats in a theatre just for logistic purposes is pretty amazing, that they've got this chance where they can go from the con and try something new into a bigger space. And for schools as well, to have somewhere where they can come do their end of year shows or put on a musical or anything that needs professional standard equipment and tech and staff. How fantastic. And so to Goulburn to have that with the con and a few other options, the Leader Theatre and other spaces around town where there's different places to try and do your art is such a good learning opportunity. The educational aspect of either performing on that stage or seeing what you can be in the future, I think it's really important.
Hi everyone, my name's Isy Cappo. I'm a 17-year-old singer-songwriter from Goulburn, born and raised. I've been kind of singing since I was screaming basically when I was younger. But I was put into lessons at the Hume Conservatorium at 6 years old, so it's been about 10-11 years now. And safe to say I've nearly performed on every stage here in Goulburn. I'm very excited to perform on the new stage at the Performing Arts Centre. Music is life, music is everything, and I'm very happy that I can express myself through music. I'm glad that we're all coming together. There's so much talent here. It's just going to be a great experience. There's so much talent youth-wise here in Goulburn, and I just want there to be as much opportunity for the youth here as possible, because we're the next generation to come through, and so many kids have so much talent here, and I just want to see that shine. And I definitely think the Performing Arts Centre will be the cause for that. You travel to Melbourne, to Sydney to go watch amazing shows, and I'm just hopefully I'm glad that we can now have a venue that caters bigger artists and such to come and tour here in Goulburn. And so we just have to walk out our front door and they're there at our Performing Arts Centre, I think that'll be a really special opportunity. Growing up releasing music, it's definitely helped me express myself. I'm thankful for the performing arts. I really hope it encourages the youth a lot more when it comes to not only music but all performing arts. I'm so excited because, these big shows, I've already looked on the website of GPAC and all the shows that are already lined up. I know that is an expression of interest for not only performing arts people, but everyone in Goulburn, and it's such an exciting new thing for Goulburn. So I'm just excited for everyone to come together. I'd also love to see a lot more local performances perform there as well, and have the opportunity to perform on a bigger stage with a bigger crowd here in Goulburn.
Archie.
Axel.
And I'm Bella.
Well, my older sibling used to do it. I was, year 3. I knew it was what I wanted to do as soon as I walked in those doors. Yeah.
I saw a play, I think it was Journey Through the Impossible, and after watching that I really wanted to do it.
I've always liked watching musical theatre stuff and plays, and go to the Canberra Centre in Sydney when I was little, and it's always been really interesting. So I started doing the junior leader classes on Friday afternoons.
Yeah, the Mighty Playwrights was a great example of that, with all those plays coming together. I was an actor, and it was really good.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in Mighty Playwrights 1 and 2, and they were both a lot of fun and interesting to see all the different kinds of plays that were written.
Worst feeling on stage is where you forget what your line is, and the pressure's on to come up with something that is along the lines of what the original line was.
On stage, there was a play, The Circle of Chalk, and there was a prop piece, and it was a big stick, and it fell. It was leaning against a wall as part of the set, and it fell and made a loud crash, and it was hard to ignore it, but we all kept going.
Yeah. In the Circle of Chalk as well, we had a member of the company fall off the stage. Do you remember that?
Oh no, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things don't go according to plan, but you can fix it in the end, yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of good advice from people, especially the older people who've been in the theatre for 50 years and things like that. I can't think of one now, but yeah, they do have a lot of advice, and yeah.
Yeah, you hear them everywhere, all over the theatre, but the one that sticks with me is The Show Must Go On, and that keeps in my head all throughout every show I've ever been in.
I think our drama teacher Jock, he's wise, and he always has advice to give us, and I think that sticks with you through your plays. And also Chrisjohn, whatever he has to say to you, I think always sticks with you as well.
Maybe if we, maybe once a year, we're doing Charlotte's Web, I think, this year, and I think maybe if we turn one of the 4 main plays at the theatre or at the Performing Arts Centre into maybe a more popular one that more kids might get involved with, and then that might make a bigger friendship circle out of everyone.
Oh yeah, it's just really good community to be a part of, and really great friendships are made there. So, well, ever since a few years ago, I've wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
And I've always loved my music and all of that.
Do you play an instrument, Archie?
Yeah, I play bass guitar.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Touching on that, the musician, I want to be a music teacher at a high school.
Yeah.
But I also want to continue my acting career, and I want to try and start going for some more bigger auditions outside plays, like television and that and stuff.
I'm not sure how much of a career I might have with performing arts, but I feel like it will always stick with you, whether that's just playing an instrument or just doing subtle dance through the years, or even just being involved in the plays, either on stage or backstage. I feel like it's really good to have the Performing Arts Centre there as well, because you can always put your hand up to be involved in something.
Yeah, a lot of things that you get told and you get taught, they stick with you for a long time. So I still use some of the techniques that I learned in my first theatre lesson to this day.
Yeah, just what Axel said, it really does stick with you. Any bits of advice, it just builds an actor from just a kid going to theatre lessons, Oh, like a lot of people say to me, I never had that opportunity when I was a kid, so it feels quite special to be a part of the community.
Yeah, it feels good to be a part of it, considering Goulburn isn't really the place you'd think there'd be a lot of stuff to do, but yeah, theatre's real good and there's a lot of real good people to do it with in Goulburn.
Yeah, it means a lot to have the Performing Arts Centre opening because you don't have to travel places to be involved in things. It's right in the centre of Goulburn.
My name is Chris Gordon. I was in 4 shows for the Gilbert and Sullivan Society back in the 90s, where I discovered I couldn't sing, dance or act, but had a lot of fun, loved it. In 2010 I was involved in a group that tried to get a Performing Arts Centre up and running, and then more recently I was in the Working Party here. And then in about 2016 I think I was part of the group that got together the new Rocky Hill Musical Theatre Company. I was actually allowed to write a couple of shows, and that was a bit different again because people read back to you your words and sing back to you your songs. It's kind of, I know people overuse the word surreal, but it is strange but great. The process of whether you go to practice or rehearsal, it's a group activity where everyone's efforts all come together, and at the end of it you have that team celebration you don't have when you do something solo. Look, I think Goulburn's done a lot of the work. So the con over many years, like from Stephen O'Connell right through to now, has built and built and built. The leader's always been like the gold standard in town. The Goulburn Club is like the spiritual home of performers in town. They relax there, they go there. So there's been a building of, I think it's part of it is normalising performing arts so that people understand, when they get home they're watching Home and Away or Yellowstone or whatever. Those are performing arts, but people didn't start there. They started in local community theatre or Stedfords or whatever, and I think trying to get people to understand that's the thing. That's what we're talking about with performing arts, not this other thing. It's this thing that they're already consuming every night when they get home anyway. I think the normalising of it is already happening in Goulburn, and the appreciation of and consuming of performing arts is already underway significantly, and so I think the pack has arrived at the right time. Without a strong performing arts, you don't really have a soul to your town. And with the fly tower and all the bells and whistles that are very helpful for scene drops and so on, it'll just give them so many more avenues. And it doesn't just train the people on the stage. The backstage people are preparing to maybe take those skills somewhere. Directors get to play around with more tools than they used to. So, and that's the other thing about the performing arts. It's not just the people who are talented, but those that can do other things. Maybe they write, maybe they direct, maybe they do sound and lighting or staging or costuming or makeup. It really is a village, and the Performing Arts Centre in particular will offer so many aspects that our previous venues haven't.
I'm Martin Yeadon.
And I'm Lynda Yeadon.
Well, I think I started in the performing arts. Just a friend of a friend who needed someone to help backstage when they were doing a show at the TAFE College. And it used to be the Argyle Musical Theatre Company there, so I've been doing it ever since.
I first saw, my first musical was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, that was at the Lilac Time Hall, and it had Ray Burgess in it, a long-time thespian in the Goulburn region, and I just fell in love with the whole concept, and I've just been in love with musicals ever since. I think as a performer, there's nothing better than getting the reaction that you want from an audience. It's
true.
There's nothing like it, and Martin even backstage gets that same feel because when the curtains open and there's sometimes that audible moment,
sort of sound.
You can tell that the audience like what they see, and for a performer, there's nothing better than to feel like you're bringing the audience along with you, and that's one of the things I just love, not only as a performer but as a director, to be able to draw that out of the performer and see how happy it makes them. You know, it's a great moment when the audience is in there along for the ride.
Yep. At the moment, we've got a great bunch of young kids. They're itching to get in. They're itching to.
You know, one of the reasons that I'm in this is for the young people. I'm a school teacher by trade, and I know how important it was to me growing up having the performing arts. I basically grew up on the stage of the Lilac Time Hall. I was cripplingly shy as a youngster, but I loved to sing. So my love for singing overcame my fear of you know, I couldn't even go into a shop and buy a carton of milk. I was so cripplingly shy. But by being part of the performing arts, I became the person I am today. And to be able to pass that on to my children and to other people's children was always my dream. So that's why now is such an important time and such an exciting time, because our young people will get to experience what I had the great joy of experiencing. And that's the beauty of amateur theatre. Anyone can have a go, and you know, everyone's welcome. And they made friendships that they'll have for life, you know, because they'll keep performing together, and it's a wonderful community to be part of. We'll continue to, with Rocky Hill Musical Theatre Company, to put on musicals and present them to the Goulburn community, for the community, by the community. And that's so important, to give these young kids a chance to dream about what might be possible, to experience what city kids have that
The country ones don't.
Yeah, that's it. So a proper stage, proper sound, proper lighting, the full theatrical experience, so that they can grow and experience just the fun and the wonderful community that the performing arts offers.
Yep, and they don't have to move out of town.
Mother was quite a good pianist and a singer. This is going back 1920s. Well, in those days, everybody sort of sang in school choirs or church choirs or in the pub after a few drinks. Everybody sang, and most people played an instrument of some description. In those days, so that was a way of life. You didn't rely on the computer or television for entertainment. You got out and did things. I got quite a good job in a bank. My father said, "This is good. Good security." He said, "You'll get a good, when you retire, a good pension." Isn't it funny that the idea that you work for 40 years at a job merely to get a pension at the end? And it so happens that I had a choir going, which did quite well in the Stedfords and things, and I happened to casually to meet the fellow who was a director of education for the county of Bedfordshire. And he said, "You're a nice young man." He said, "You've got plenty of oomph. We could do with decent teachers." He said, "What about it?" Out of the blue came an inquiry. This phone call. He said he was the headmaster of All Saints College in Bathurst. Had no clue where Bathurst was. Only a vague idea where Australia was, to be honest. 1975, and the phone went. Deputy Principal of Goulburn Teachers College. Was I interested in going there on the staff there? Because everybody in Bathurst says, "You don't have to Goulburn, it's a terrible place." I think they go about grunting at one another, and it's a smelly sort of place. You don't want to go to Goulburn. So everybody tried to put us off. Interesting thing, I came, we hadn't moved, so I was in digs for the first term in 1976, that would be, I suppose. But one of the early nights, I think the first night of here, I went down and went past the Lynda Theatre, and they were just advertising a show. Yeah, but I thought, thinking, just an ad hoc sort of typical village sort of production. I went in. It was a really professional production, and I was most impressed. I thought any town that's a good production like this. it's worth thinking about. And I thought, well, that's a good high standard of drama, and gradually coming to Goulburn for just 2 or 3 years has proved almost 40 something. And I was the first director of the con, and at the same time I was directing music at the cathedral as well. Well, I suppose meeting the Vatican one, because that was so unusual. In fact, it took us by surprise because we weren't told much about it. I thought we'd be at the back there, just somewhere at the back of the crowd, just music while you're waiting for things. No, when we are down in the tumult, they're there, and the Pope's diocese was there. I thought, oh gosh, we better do well. If you're in the music line, you find you're getting involved with so many things, because whatever happens, if someone has a 21st birthday party or consecration of a cathedral, it doesn't matter what it is, people want music. And also, apart from the artistic side, it's the social interaction. You go to a concert, you see people and say, oh, I haven't seen you for some time. And so it's a social side as well as the artistic side, I think, more important. It is the social reaction of the arts. It's very important.
I think there's this amazing rich tapestry that contributes to performing arts. And now we've got a performing arts centre, there's a real opportunity there to take a look at that tapestry and put it on show.